Manchester today holds around 630,000 people, with a greater urban area of over 3 million, Britain's second largest conurbation. Cotton mills are apartments, warehouses are offices, the football clubs are known on every continent. But cities do not begin with skylines. They begin with a reason to stop. The reason someone stopped here, on a sandstone bluff above two rivers in the northwest of England, was strategic, entirely Roman. It is the year 79 AD. The Roman general Gnaeus Julius Agricola is pushing conquest northward into what we now call northern England. His campaign targets the Brigantes, the dominant Celtic tribe controlling most of the territory. His legions need fortified posts to anchor their advance and protect the road between the great fortresses at Diva Victrix, Chester, and Eboracum, York. His surveyors identify a sandstone bluff near the confluence of two rivers, the Medlock and the Irwell. It is naturally defensible. The rivers guard two sides. The ground rises above the surrounding marshland. It is not beautiful. It is practical. The fort they build is called a mamutium. The name derives from a Brittonic word, mam, meaning roughly breast-shaped hill. The Romans Latinize it, but the shape of the land underneath gave the city its name before the city existed. Mamutium covers roughly 3.5 acres. Its garrison, around 500 auxiliary soldiers, comes not from Italy, but from Spain, Germany, and North Africa. Frontier postings went to frontier people. Outside the walls, a vicus, a settlement of traders, craftsmen, and soldiers' families, grows along the road. A bathhouse is constructed. There is a mantio, an official inn for imperial travelers. Pottery is made, grain is ground. An area of furnaces has been described by archaeologists as a small industrial estate, history's first hint of what this place would one day become. For 3 centuries, Mamutium holds. Then, in 410 AD, Rome withdraws from Britain. The administration collapses, the legions depart. Within a generation, stones from official buildings are pried loose and reused. The roads crack, the civilian settlement empties. In the Castlefield area of Manchester, you can still walk reconstructed sections of those walls. What we know about Manchester in the 5 centuries after Rome's departure is thin. History for a time whispers rather than speaks. The name shifts. Mamutium becomes Memcester in Old English, eventually Manchester. The Engels settle here. Viking raids reshape the north of England. The Saxons build a church on the high ground above the Irwell. In 920 AD, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle records that Edward the Elder sends men to repair the old Roman site, probably as an advanced post against Norse incursion. When the Domesday Book is compiled in 1086, Manchester barely registers. It is folded into the hundred of Salford. Population, perhaps a few hundred. Not a center of power, not a beacon of wealth. Another modest cluster of buildings surrounded by marshy ground and flooding rivers. The Norman conquest reshuffled everything. The Grelly family become barons of Manchester. In 1223, Manchester gains the right to hold an annual fair. It becomes a market town in 1301 when it receives its charter from Thomas de Grelly. A market every Saturday in Akersfield, where St. Anne's Square stands today. The great anchor of medieval Manchester is its collegiate church. Thomas de la Warre, both lord of the manor and a priest, obtains licenses from the Pope and King Henry V to found a collegiate church in the early 1420s. Dedicated to the Blessed Virgin, St. George, and St. Denis, construction begins around 1422. You know this building today as Manchester Cathedral. The ceiling of its nave is one of the finest examples of late Perpendicular Gothic architecture in the country. The choir stalls are intricately detailed, Someone spent months carving faces and figures into the misericords, the folding wooden ledges beneath the choir seats. We do not know their name. Part of the original college buildings survive as Chetham's School of Music and Chetham's Library. Opened in 1653 and still open to the public today, the oldest free public reference library in the English-speaking world. In the 14th century, a community of Flemish weavers settles in Manchester. They produce wool and linen. Their arrival has been credited as the foundation of the region's textile tradition, the seedling of what would, centuries later, become a revolution that changed the world. By 1540, the traveler John Leland describes Manchester as the fairest, best builded, quickest, and most populous town of all Lancashire. A wool trade has made it prosperous. Commerce has given it ambition, but it is still, by any standard, a modest place. Henry VIII dissolves the monasteries in the 1530s. Manchester, never heavily monastic, survives relatively unscathed. The collegiate church is refounded as a Protestant institution. A grammar school, founded in 1515 by Hugh Oldham, educates the sons of the town. It eventually becomes the Manchester Grammar School. Today, the largest independent day school for boys in the United Kingdom. In 1620, a new era begins with the weaving of fustian, a cloth with a linen warp and a cotton weft. This is the origin of the cotton industry. When the English Civil War erupts, Manchester backs Parliament against the King. In 1642, Lord Strange, the royalist son of the Earl of Derby, attempts to seize the militia magazine stored in the old college building. In the ensuing scuffle, a linen weaver named Richard Percival is killed. He's reckoned by some to be the first casualty of the English Civil War. Strange returns to besiege the town. With the help of John Rosworm, a German mercenary and determined local militia, the town holds. On the Restoration of 1660, Manchester is punished for its parliamentarian loyalty. Its granted members of Parliament are revoked. No MP will sit for Manchester again until 1832. By around 1750, pure cotton fabrics are being produced in Lancashire. Cotton overtakes wool in importance. The Irwell and Mersey are made navigable by 1736. Manchester becomes the dominant marketplace for textiles produced in the surrounding towns. The stage is being set. Before the Industrial Revolution, we must reckon with the system that fueled it. The cotton that would transform Manchester into the workshop of the world arrived drenched in blood. Ships depart British ports loaded with manufactured goods. They sail to West Africa, where those goods are traded for human beings, men, women, and children, taken from their communities and shackled in the holds of ships. Those enslaved people are transported across the Atlantic in horrific conditions to plantations in the American South and the Caribbean. Their forced labor produces cotton, sugar, and tobacco. The ships return to Britain with raw materials. Manchester exported cotton goods to Africa as payment for enslaved people. The city's population and economic growth were directly supported by this supply line. At first, the industry remains cottage work. Spinners at home with spinning wheels, weavers at hand looms. Merchants collect the finished cloth and sell it, now sometimes back to plantation owners, to clothe the very people enslaved to produce the raw fiber. This is the system that bankrolled the revolution that followed. When contemporaries celebrated the wealth of Manchester, they were celebrating a supply chain that ran through the holds of slave ships. That fact does not disappear because the mills are now apartments. In 1761, the Duke of Bridgewater opens a canal linking Manchester to his coal mines at Worsley, the first wholly artificial waterway in Britain. The cost of coal is halved. Manchester's mills run on coal. In 1764, James Hargreaves invents the spinning jenny, a machine that spins multiple threads simultaneously. In 1769, Richard Arkwright patents the water frame, powered by running water. In 1779, Samuel Crompton combines elements of both into the spinning mule. One person with a machine can now do the work of dozens of human hands. These were not simply better tools, they were a rupture in human history. The machines are too large for cottages. They need power, water wheels, then steam engines. They need dedicated buildings. The factory is born. In the 1780s and 1790s, multi-story brick mills rise in Manchester and the surrounding towns. Steam engines pump, machines clatter, hundreds of workers labor under one roof. In 1780, Richard Arkwright begins construction of Manchester's first cotton mill. By 1800, the city is described as steam mill mad. By 1830, there are 99 cotton spinning mills. These are the number peaks at 108 in 1853. By 1800, Manchester is transforming from a market town into something the world has never seen before, an industrial city. The population in 1800 stands at roughly 25,000. By 1850, it will reach 300,000. No city in human history had grown that fast. In 1801, Manchester's population is around 70,000. People pour in from Ireland, escaping poverty and then famine. From rural England, pushed off the land by enclosure. From Wales, from Scotland, they come because there is work. There is always work. The work is brutal. Factories operate 12, 14, even 16 hours a day. Workers live crammed into back-to-back terrace houses and narrow courts, entire families sharing single rooms. There's no sanitation, no clean water. Children as young as 5 or 6 work in the mills, their small hands suited to crawling under running machines to clear blockages, their fingers trained to tie broken threads faster than adult hands can manage. Accidents are common. Lungs fill with cotton dust. The average life expectancy in 1840s Manchester is 25 years. Yet people keep arriving, because the countryside offers nothing. At least in Manchester there are wages, however small. Stand on the banks of the River Irwell and look into the water. It does not reflect the sky. It runs purple one day, indigo the next, depending on which dyes the textile mills have flushed out that morning. There are no fish. By the 1830s, Manchester and the surrounding towns produce most of the world's cotton goods. It earns the nickname Cottonopolis. At the height of the trade, the region produces more than half of all cotton cloth manufactured anywhere on Earth. The irony is brutal. Some of the poorest people in England are processing cotton picked by enslaved people in America. Neither group sees much of the wealth they create. The mill owners, the merchants, they're getting rich. Everyone else is struggling to survive. In the district of Angel Meadow, near the city center, 30,000 people are crammed into 1 square mile. The graveyards are so full that the ground is unstable. The living walk upon the shifting bones of the dead. Despite its size and economic importance, Manchester in 1819 has no direct representation in Parliament. Most working people have no say in how they are governed. On August 16th, a crowd gathers at St. Peter's Field. Between 60,000 and 80,000 people come peacefully to hear the reformer Henry Hunt speak about parliamentary representation. They are dressed in their Sunday best. Families bring picnic baskets. Banners call for liberty and reform. The local magistrates panic at the scale of the crowd. They order the arrest of Hunt. They send in the Manchester and Salford yeomanry, part-time cavalry poorly disciplined, by several accounts partially drunk, armed with sabers. The yeomanry charge into the packed crowd, slashing at anyone in their way. People scream, try to run, trip over each other. The magistrates then ordered the professional 15th Hussars to disperse the crowd. The stampede intensifies. When it ends, 18 people are dead. Hundreds are injured, many with saber wounds. Hunt and the other organizers are arrested and imprisoned. The name sticks immediately. Peterloo, a bitter mockery of the Battle of Waterloo, fought 4 years earlier. One of those who later died from his wounds had been present at Waterloo itself. He told a friend shortly before his death, "At Waterloo, there was man to man, but there it was, downright murder." The Manchester Guardian is founded shortly afterward with a radical agenda. The memory of that day galvanizes the movement for change across the country. The Reform Act of 1832 finally gives Manchester its own members of parliament for the first time since 1656. Manchester becomes a municipal borough in 1838 and receives city status in 1853. September 15th, 1830. The world's first intercity passenger railway opens. George and Robert Stephenson's locomotive, the Rocket, pulls carriages between Manchester and Liverpool at 30 miles per hour. A journey that once took a full day by road now takes under 2 hours. The opening day turns tragic when William Huskisson, the MP for Liverpool, wanders onto the track and is struck by the locomotive. He dies that evening. History's first railway passenger fatality. Within a decade, rails radiate from Manchester in every direction. Raw cotton pours in faster than ever. Finished cloth flows out to markets across the globe. In 1842, a young German named Friedrich Engels arrives in Manchester to work in his father's cotton business. He's 22 years old. Nothing has prepared him for what he sees. He walks through Ancoats. By the 1820s, one of the most intensively industrialized square miles on Earth, he documents the cellar dwellings where families live in darkness and damp, the open sewers, the children with rickets, the workers coughing up blood from cotton dust. In 1845, he publishes The Condition of the Working Class in England. He meets Karl Marx, and together, in 1848, they write the Communist Manifesto. The alcove in Chetham's library where they worked is still there. Manchester did not just create industrial capitalism. It created the most enduring critique of it. Both came from the same streets. Then, in 1861, the American Civil War erupts. The Union Navy blockades Confederate ports. Raw cotton stops flowing to Britain. Manchester's mills run out of supply. By 1862, the Lancashire cotton famine has begun. The mills close. Hundreds of thousands of workers lose their jobs. Families starve. Soup kitchens open across the city. Confederate diplomats arrive in Britain with an offer. Support the South. Break the blockade. Cotton will flow again. All you have to do is support our right to keep human beings enslaved. On New Year's Eve, 1862, thousands gather at the Free Trade Hall. They debate. They vote. They draft a letter to Abraham Lincoln. They choose abolition. The letter expresses hope that every stain on American freedom will shortly be removed. They are starving, they are desperate, and they choose to keep starving rather than support slavery. Lincoln writes back and calls their stance an instance of sublime Christian heroism, which has not been surpassed in any age or in any country. A statue of Lincoln stands in Manchester today, in Lincoln Square, commemorating that choice. By the 1870s, Manchester is one of the 6 largest cities in Europe. In 1877, the new town hall opens. Designed by Alfred Waterhouse in the Gothic Revival style, it stands as one of the finest Victorian Gothic buildings in the world. A clock tower rises 87 meters above Albert Square. Inside, murals by Ford Madox Brown depict Manchester's history from Roman times through medieval markets to the industrial present. The building cost £1 million. Manchester paid it without hesitation. In the 1890s, Manchester's manufacturers grow tired of the fees charged by Liverpool's dock companies. They build the Manchester Ship Canal, 36 miles long, running from the Mersey estuary to Salford. It is dug almost entirely by hand by 16,000 navvies, takes 6 years and costs £15 million, the largest civil engineering project in the Victorian Britain. Completed in 1894, it makes Manchester a seaport 40 miles inland. By 1900, it is the third busiest port in England. On land adjacent to the new docks, Trafford Park becomes the world's first planned industrial estate. Ford builds its first European factory here in 1911. Kellogg's comes. Westinghouse comes. At its height, more than 50,000 workers are employed within its factories. By 1900, Manchester's population has reached 544,000. The city region is the 9th most populous in the world. In that same year, the John Rylands Library opens on Deansgate, built by Enriqueta Rylands in memory of her husband, with soaring vaulted reading rooms and stained glass designed by architect Basil Champneys. It is still open today. In 1856, the Free Trade Hall opens in its final form on the ground of the Peterloo massacre. In 1858, the Halle Orchestra is founded there by Charles Halle, a German-born pianist who came to Manchester for a music festival and never left. It is the oldest professional symphony orchestra in the United Kingdom and still performing today. In 1905, at the same Free Trade Hall, the suffragette movement's militant phase begins. Emmeline Pankhurst's daughter Christabel and her colleague Annie Kenney interrupt a Liberal Party meeting to demand whether the party will give women the vote. They are ejected. They are arrested. From that moment, the campaign for women's suffrage hardens into confrontation. World War I devastates Manchester like everywhere else. Thousands enlist. The PALS battalions, units of men from the same towns and workplaces, suffer horrific casualties at the Somme. The interwar years are difficult. American and Japanese cotton mills are more efficient. India's independence movement deliberately boycotts British cotton. The Great Depression accelerates the decline. On the nights of December 22nd and 23rd, 1940, the Manchester Blitz, German bombers pound the city center. An estimated 474 tons of high explosives and over 37,000 incendiary bombs are dropped. 165 warehouses are destroyed, along with 200 business premises and 150 offices. 376 people are killed and 30,000 houses are damaged. Manchester Cathedral is hit. The roof of the nave collapses. The medieval woodwork is largely destroyed. It takes until 1964 to complete the restoration. After 1945, the decline continues. The Royal Exchange ceases trading in 1968. The Port of Manchester closes in 1982. Manchester loses 150,000 manufacturing jobs between 1961 and 1983. The slum clearances of the 1960s demolish vast swaths of Victorian terraced housing. Communities are destroyed in the name of modernization, replaced with tower blocks and concrete estates that quickly develop their own problems. By the 1980s, the population falls below 400,000 for the first time in over a century. The writer W.G. Siebold, arriving in Manchester in 1966, describes the view from a taxi through Moss Side and Hume. Whole blocks boarded up, whole districts demolished. He compares the city to a necropolis. And yet, even in the depths of the decline, Manchester has music. The Smiths. Joy Division, who became New Order. The Stone Roses, Happy Mondays. These bands emerge in the 1980s from a city that has lost its industrial purpose. Their music reflects it, angular, searching, sometimes euphoric. At the center of it all, the Hacienda. Located on Whitworth Street West, in a converted warehouse, it opens in 1982. By the end of the decade, It has become the most influential nightclub in Britain, the epicenter of the acid house movement. Tony Wilson, co-founder of Factory Records, television presenter and cultural impresario, is the presiding spirit. The club closes in 1997. The building is demolished in 2002. Football binds the city through its darkest years. Manchester United, founded as Newton Heath in 1878, and Manchester City command fierce loyalty. When 8 of United's Busby Babes die in the Munich air disaster of February 1958, the city mourns together. When United wins the European Cup in 1968 with Bobby Charlton and George Best, the city celebrates together. In 1991, 4 young men from Burnage form a band called Oasis. Within 5 years, they are the biggest rock band on the planet. Then, June 15th, 1996, a Saturday morning, a 3,300-pound IRA lorry bomb parked on Corporation Street near the Arndale Shopping Center, the largest bomb detonated on British soil since World War II, goes off. The blast injures over 200 people. No one is killed, but the physical damage is enormous. 1,200 buildings are hit. The Arndale Center is massively damaged. Windows break half a mile away. The final insurance payout exceeds £400 million. What follows is the most thorough rebuilding of an English city center in decades. An international design competition is launched within a month of the bombing. New public spaces are created. Exchange Square is born from nothing. The Arndale is rebuilt. The unloved yellow ceramic cladding replaced with sandstone and glass. In 2002, Manchester hosts the 17th Commonwealth Games. The Etihad Stadium is built. East Manchester is regenerated. Universities expand. The BBC moves significant operations to Media City, UK and Salford. Manchester is booming again. The University of Manchester formed in 2004 from the merger of Victoria University of Manchester and UMist, carries a scientific legacy few institutions can match. In 1803, John Dalton formulated atomic theory here. In 1919, Ernest Rutherford led the team that first discovered the nuclear atom, inaugurating the beginnings of nuclear physics. In 1948, Freddie Williams, Tom Kilburn, and Jeff Tootle built the Manchester Baby, the world's first stored program computer to run a program. In 2004, Andrei Geim and Konstantin Novoselov first isolated graphene in Manchester, earning them the Nobel Prize in 2010. A city that built the first industrial factory, also built the first computer, and discovered the material that may define the next century of manufacturing. The skyline grows taller every year. The 47-story Beetham Tower, completed in 2006, was the tallest residential building in Britain outside London. It has since been surpassed by the 659-foot Deansgate Square South Tower. Inequality, however, remains. Manchester is the second most deprived local authority in England by ranking. The gap between rich and poor is wide and visible. On May 22, 2017 at 10:31 p.m., following a concert by Ariana Grande at the Manchester Arena, an Islamist terrorist detonates a suicide bomb in the arena's foyer. 23 people are killed, including the perpetrator. Over 800 are injured. Many of the victims are children and teenagers. It is the deadliest terrorist attack in Britain since the July 7, 2005 London bombings. The city's response is immediate. The worker bee, Manchester's symbol since the Industrial Revolution, representing the industriousness of its people, becomes a symbol of solidarity overnight. Tattoos appear, murals go up, tributes flood the city. We stand together. Manchester has been through Peterloo, the cotton famine, the Blitz, collapse, managed decline, and the IRA bomb. It knows how to grieve, and it knows how to stand back up. Resilience here is not a sentiment. It is a consistent historical fact. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let me know and comment that on which topic you want next video. Take care, and I see you in next video.